I'm David Marsh. Welcome to Exploring the Human Journey.
Exploring the Human Journey.
My understanding of ascension is multiple layers happening, where we have frequencies of light coming into the planet, into our bodies, into our minds, our understandings of the world as we know it. Our perceptions are shifting and changing. NASA's been recording more solar flares and more flashes and different emissions from the sun itself. It's actually affecting us, like the moon affects the tides. That leads into the ascension because we start moving into this place where everything feels more connected. We start having situations where we're connected to people and we know when they're thinking about us, or we know they had pizza for dinner, or different things. We have a unity consciousness vibe that's starting to happen. People are having experiences where they're having dreams of loved ones who have crossed over, where they're seeing things in the corner of their eye. They get knowings about things, or they're seeing repeating number patterns, these energies coming to life in a very real, visceral way. The whole idea is that we shift vibration, shift frequency, and shift our perception of reality. Ascension at the core is the understanding that we are not just human beings. We are souls having a human experience. And these light waves that are coming in are bringing us into a state of awareness and enlightenment through the light, the higher frequencies, that we are co-creators with the universe. And this is what the ascension is really about. Not about the world exploding into, nuclear holocaust. It's about love and coming together and helping each other as the light from the universe is supporting us in doing that.
Hi and welcome. I'm so glad you joined us. Today, Jeanette St. Germain is back in the house. What's up? Thanks for joining us. Today, we're going to have this fun conversation about ascension. Recently, I was talking with Jeanette, and she's like, oh yeah, we're going through ascension. We're doing some stuff. And I'm like, what does that mean? And I was like, is it a doomsday thing? And nah. So we just started talking. You saw the feature video. It's about higher vibration. So first, welcome. Thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
And
so fun.
This is it's so enlightening about energy moving forward. So enough about me talking. Hit play on the jukebox and tell me about what ascension is and what's happening in that spiritual realm.
Ascension, in a nutshell, is just everybody coming into an awareness that they are souls having a human experience.
Yes.
Not human beings having a spiritual experience.
Yeah.
So that's the nutshell of it. There's a lot to that, but...
No, I love that because my religious background had told me that you were simply born, you lived, and then you died, and this was you had to have a spiritual experience because you're a human being that needed to have redemption because you were somehow unworthy. And now as you dig deeper, you realize, no, you're a spiritual being. You've always been here. You'll always be here. And this is the humanness of our experience that we're having. We're like, oh, everything's real. This is it. So tell me more about what ascension what it means. Is it forward progress? Is it that we're going to leave the planet? I mean, what does ascension mean?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways of looking at ascension. My understanding of it is that we become aware of our spiritual nature, number one, and then we start having experiences that are more spiritual in our human experience. So things that might be perceived as science fiction or fantasy, where people are feeling themselves opening to other realms, to other even entities that aren't even human.
Oh, Okay, whoa. Okay, other alternate dimension type of things.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Like in the movie, what was it called? Inception? They talk about going inside dreams and creating things and influencing things. And
a dream within a dream within a dream, multiple layers.
Yeah, and there's some truth to that in how this reality is constructed. And it's really fascinating when you start looking at parallel realities and into even some quantum fields where observation and focused perception of reality creates that reality. And that's a completely different paradigm than what we've been raised with in our, everyday society, where what is happening to me is just happening to me, and then I have to react to it, right? Versus what's happening to me is because I'm creating it on some level. It's what I'm perceiving as truth. So as you go through an ascension process, you start becoming aware that there's an energy of co-creation between you and the universe and everyone around you, every person you meet, every experience you have, every challenge, every joy. It's all part of this unfolding of what you are creating.
So good. It's more of a positive feel to have that co-creation rather than simply being a victim of circumstances.
Right.
So a lot of times when you get stuck into a mindset of I have no control over my life, I'm merely a victim, and all these things happen, and I just have to tough it out.
Yeah.
You know, you're told just to endure to the end, you know, and then you'll get your reward in heaven or whatever that paradigm is. It's so much better to think that you can be a part of that co-creation, and this is where the action is.
Right. Well, and even the idea that the more you suffer, the more you'll be rewarded later.
Right.
That's one of those paradigms that just, drives me crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, when you move into an ascension process, an awareness that, okay, I'm not just human and I have a responsibility to this co-creative energy, then, well, gee, I can actually create experiences that are pleasurable and fun and joyful. And, well, gee, maybe that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm supposed to have these experiences of heaven on earth. Not when I die, I might get to go to some nebulous place in the sky with some dude passing judgment.
Yeah.
That just seems crazy to me when you start opening into these other realms of experience and perception. And, you know, everybody has a different process of ascension, whatever that is for them. Some people, it's just, oh my gosh, my grandfather died and now he's coming to me in dreams.
Oh, wow.
What is that?
Yeah.
Right? So I'll have people come to see me that they're just starting to open up to the possibility of something else that's actually affecting them. You know, we have all these religions on the planet that talk about life after death, or talk about other lives, reincarnation, or talk about different things, but nothing that, it's like the masses are following stories, they're following scriptures, they're following what they've been told, but the masses in general don't have a lot of their own experiences of spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
And now that's changing so much rapidly.
Yep.
People are accelerating their awareness of their own.
There is more of that sparking up, you know, as evidenced by just people having this awakening that they don't need to give their authority away to someone else to have a belief system or a code of you'll be okay if you believe what we tell you. They can simply find that intuition and realize I'm just fine as I am, and it's all good, and this is the experience, and there is that awakening.
Yeah. And awakening or ascension can even be as simple as I'm in this 3D life, I go to work, I come home, I take care of my kids, I have my wife, I have my husband, whatever that is, and then one day they're just like, something else. There has to be something else. There's something more here. I'm meant for something and I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people will come and find me just at a meditation group because they're like, I just feel stressed or I'm feeling anxiety and I don't know where it's coming from. My life is really great, but I'm unhappy. Why am I unhappy? Right? And a lot of times that's where it starts. Or it'll start with someone passing away and then they get a visitation, or someone will start feeling this heightened sensitivity to other people around them. I have a lot of empaths that come. I'm an empath as well, so I can understand that when you're around a group of people, you feel everything in the room as if it's you.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's everybody in this collective energy. And if you are super sensitive or tuned into that, you can receive that information. And if you don't know how to turn it on or off or have really strong boundaries within yourself, it can be really overwhelming. So that's a part of an ascension process. Yeah. It's all of this just waking up to something more and to your true divine nature.
Oh, so good.
So
that's so good. I grew up in those. I remember in the 1980s, there was the church mindset was that Jesus was coming back to rapture the world. We had gone through the 1970 movie A Thief in the Night, where two people went out and one was raptured and the other one was left behind, and we had to hear this song, You've Been Left Behind. And, you know, as a 10-year-old in 1980, I'm like, I don't want to get left behind. So there was this perpetual fear. And I remember being about 16 years old going, man, I hope Jesus doesn't come back right now, because, you know, I want to have sex and get married and have kids and go to college. I mean, there's cool, fun things to do. You know, I wanted to do that, but I was so afraid Jesus was coming back. And I remember that there was a book, 88 Reasons Why Jesus Would Come Back in 1988. So there was a lot of doomsday type of things that we were given as a narrative. And so the ascension process was like, oh yeah, Jesus is going to come back. He's going to rescue everybody. So you don't really have to save the earth. You don't really have to be nice to anyone. He's going to come back and make it all better. And as we've moved forward in time, obviously, we're still here. We're still doing stuff.
I think we passed 1988.
We think we did.
And 2000 and 2012.
It was all of the benchmarks, you know, and all along the way, we can all think of people that said, you know, our group was going out in the desert waiting for whether it was the rapture or the spaceship. You know, people are looking for the savior complex to save them. And I love how you give presence to the ascension of, no, we don't need to be saved by something else. We're able to be saved by our own intuition, our own ascension, that Christ consciousness.
Yeah, the divine within you.
Yeah.
That's the huge crux that we have as a society, is to stop believing or hoping or wishing or dreaming that something outside of us is the answer.
Yeah.
The answer is always inside. And then if something in the external happens, it's simply a reflection of what we're holding here. So whether the spaceships come or Jesus comes back in physical form, I mean, I'm pretty open-minded to pretty much anything, but in the work I've done and the things I've seen and the communications I have just with the realms of spirit, none of that really rings true for me, you know, in my perspective. I do think there are a lot of things happening, shifting and changing, and it's accelerating this process of waking up. And that waking up energy gives us the opportunity to be more loving, be more unified, more compassionate, more in our Christ consciousness, which, set aside from any kind of religious paradigm, is simply unconditional love. It's the same consciousness of Buddha. It's the same consciousness of any of the great teachers and masters through history. So it's not stuck to just Jesus Christ the man. It's an energy. And when I've heard of religion saying that Christ is coming back, it's like, well, yeah, he already has. Right here inside of you.
To that Christ consciousness, because the second coming of Christ, I was told, was a literal thing where in Bible terms, you know, we're all going to somehow raise out of our body and meet Jesus in the air and then triumphantly go to heaven while the rest of the earth goes to hell. It's a scary paradigm. We're like, I hope I get to be one of those.
Yeah, right?
Well, but then as I move forward in understanding and awakening, I find that Christ consciousness is the part of that awakening that is within us. So give presence to that.
Well, the awakening inside of you, we're talking about energy, we're talking about ascension, we're talking about rising up, right? We are leaving a frequency of low, dense, heavy, I'm only worried about me, I'm so scared about this, I'm happy but not really about this, like this anger, this dense, this separation energy.
Us versus them, you know, me and mine.
Me, myself, and I.
Very egocentric.
Right? And as we go into a Christ consciousness energy, a perception of the world, we're all connected, everything is love, as part of our ascension, the energy of love is a higher frequency than the energy of me, myself, and I, right? So you move your cells, your DNA, your entire makeup energetically and physically within your own body is going to raise in frequency. So that's what we're talking about, ascending. We're moving up and out of this denseness that's kind of kept us in that place of fear, shifting into love. But it all comes through a perception. It's not necessarily, okay, the spaceship's going to come and lift us up off the planet, or Jesus is going to come and lift us up off the planet. It's all of these stories that we have in the Bible and a lot of other, you know, ancient texts talk about some kind of an event, some kind of an ascension, awakening event. And our modern, well, not even just modern, but a lot of people trying to decipher these teachings perceive it as a physical manifestation, whereas everything in the universe is energy. So why would we perceive something physical when at the core it's energetic? It's perception. It's all metaphor, what they're talking about. Now, maybe there is something physical that will happen, as we're seeing with the ascension process. Like I've been studying some different things where our DNA is changing, our molecular structure is changing, our cells are moving faster, our brains are getting bigger. Just even over the last 100 years, our planet is warming up. The planets all through the solar system are warming up. Things are moving faster. These vibrations coming in. And the vibrations are coming in from the sun. They're coming in from this kind of light cloud that we're moving into. The galaxy itself is moving into this space, in space.
Yeah.
And it's these electromagnetic energies that are creating change at a molecular level. So there is a physical change happening that is, I think, bringing about this ascension process at a physical level.
Now, I heard you talk about the great central sun, and I was like, is that a metaphor, or is that just a spiritual thing, or is that a real thing? And you talked about our galaxy or solar system moving around a great central sun. That's something that was new to me. I've heard that term before, but I don't really understand it. Can you give presence to that?
It's interesting because I've been seeing this vision in my meditations and things for many, many years, but I didn't quite understand it. And then there's some of the research I've been doing and looking at different photos from NASA of how like Neptune's changing and Jupiter's changing and how this cosmology is changing because of the energy coming in from the sun. And then I started finding more articles about how, I don't know if they're necessarily mainstream, but some scientists are speculating that we are actually rotating us around a central sun system, and that there's some kind of dual sun system where there's a sun that we might actually see, like a bright sun, and then there's a sun that's the central sun that is actually, scientists are hypothesizing it's a black or a brown dwarf sun, so like a black hole kind of energy, but it's a sun.
Oh, wow.
So, and then if you look back at the Vedic teachings, there's all these different historical texts that are religious texts. There's all this symbolism and talking about a central sun. And it's not the sun that we are, revolving around. It's the sun that's at the center of this movement of our galaxy.
It's incredible.
And that's just one piece.
Is that like something like a central part of the universe or something?
I wouldn't say we're the center of anything.
Well, not us, but the central sun. I mean, is it like everything's spinning around that or something?
I believe that everything we have at a micro level, we have at a macro level. Especially if you study sacred geometry and the Fibonacci sequence, and the spirals in the seashells are the same spirals in our eyes, and the same spirals that we find, in flowers and in galaxies and in different things. So if we have a central sun that we are revolving around, then there must be more central suns that other energies and other parts of this universe are revolving around.
Yeah.
At some place, I believe there is a central point, a central sun kind of energy that everything of this universe originates from. So, but you're going macro, macro, macro. So I do believe that. But is that what's creating this ascension awakening? Possibly. And it may also just be the central sun that's affecting this part of the universe right now.
So people are like waking up like popcorn, snapping, popping all
really
over the
cool.
globe. And people are going, that old paradigm I used to have, it's no longer valid. And I'm someone who had that.
Right.
I was given a set and said, this is the way to believe. And now I'm like, it doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't feel right. I've had too many experiences where it doesn't make any sense to stay in that old belief system. And do you feel that is an energetic impartation from external in the universe into our planet as far as vibrational waves?
Some of that, yeah. I believe those energies are coming in and affecting us. But I also believe that we are hardwired to receive that energy. I think that we already have those energies inside us, but they've kind of been dormant or locked away in our DNA. We only use, 20% of our brains. There's so much potential for the human brain, the human structure, and the human system to be more than what we are currently. And I think that's what's happening. These waves are unlocking things that have been dormant, that we already have as a blueprint within us, energetically and physically.
Wow.
So,
do you think that the spiritual aspect that people are going through is somehow connected to a matrix or a soul grid or something? And okay, so I love when you get off into the matrix and you get into star beings and stuff. How do you feel like all of this extra stuff in some sort of an alternate dimension is affecting spiritual consciousness on this planet?
well, it's all connected. So my belief system is that there are lots of matrix structures. This whole universe is created in a matrix structure.
Yeah.
I believe that there are multiple dimensions, multiple realities, parallel universes. There's all kinds of different things. I mean, so far beyond what my human brain can even begin to conceptualize.
Yeah.
And it's not linear. It goes out in all these spirals and spheres and all kinds of structures, subtle things and really not subtle things, lights, darks, everything in between. And the matrix, to try to simplify that, my understanding is the kind of matrix that we're in that relates to this awakening process is at least around planet Earth, and even as far as this part of the universe, like our galaxy and kind of where we are in the cosmos, has been placed into this place where there's a matrix program, like a computer program running, that makes us believe we are separate from our creator. That makes us think that, oh, we have to do all these things in order to be good enough to return home, to return to the divine. We are separate from it, yes? But in spirituality, you come to this realization through your awakening process that, well, that's false, right? I'm connected all the time to the divine because I'm divine.
Yeah.
And religion would say it's blasphemy, but I'm God, you're God, they're God, everybody's God,
part of the
goddess.
godness.
We're all part of it.
Yes.
And so this matrix energy comes in and tries to keep us locked in fear and separation. And as we awaken, we kind of bust through that perception. And I've actually seen it as like an energetic structure even around the planet. And if you hold enough energy of love and light and unity, that matrix program starts to dissolve until eventually it's completely gone. And I believe that that's what we're shifting into. We're moving out of that place of forgetting who we are so that we give our power away to something else outside of ourselves. And we're moving into a place of empowerment and into our goddess-hood, whatever that is for each individual.
Yeah, when you come into alignment with the understanding that you are part of the divine, you are part of that collective consciousness, of universal consciousness, you're like, oh, so I'm having my experience. It allows you to have the liberty, the joy. It allows you to be loving and connecting to everything and everyone. It's such a it's such a better paradigm to be in than to think you're separate and you have to desperately try to attain worthiness so you can be with the divine because everybody else is going to go to the bad place, you know. But if there is no bad place to go to and it's all this one thing thinging itself,
Say that.
if that's what's happening here, like, oh, then this can be play. This can be cosmic joy. This can be the experience.
Well, and it also gives us the opportunity to take responsibility for what we want, what we are creating, for our fears, for our joys, for our challenges and our successes. It's us that this is coming from as an expression of the divine in all that we do. So if I know that I'm an expression of the divine and my goal is to be in alignment with that expression, to be of service and to be a unifying force on this planet, to rise above the old program and to reinstate kind of the original program, which is love and connection, then anytime I make a choice or I do an action that's out of alignment with that energy, right? That comes back and I have to look at that and grow through that and make a different choice, readjust, because I know what my truth is. And I know that that's my purpose, is to express that truth. So many people are walking around, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know why I'm here. Tell me what I'm supposed to do with my life. And I have clients come in and ask me that all the time. And they kind of get a little bit frustrated. I just say to them, your purpose is to be love. And joy. Be joy on this planet. And they're like, well, I can't pay the bills with joy. Well, actually, you can. If you're doing something that fills you with joy, abundance is automatically attracted and magnetized to you at a much greater level than if you're doing a job that you hate and that it's draining you and you feel like you have to do it to fit into all these paradigms and responsibilities. You're not taking responsibility. You're giving your power away to somebody else.
Boom. Take your authority back. I love that. I love that thing about purpose. What is my purpose? When, you know, like we can't just be here having an experience. We have to somehow have a mission or have a thing that says, well, if I do this really great, amazing thing and get famous and have a lot of money, then that's my purpose. Your purpose on your karmic journey may just simply to have the experience of being with a significant other, or
Yeah.
being in a job and being there, someone to talk to. I mean,
Right.
there can be many multifold
Yeah.
purposes that our lives have.
Oh, so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about how grandiose it is or how many people know about it. I mean, that's all ego constructs,
Yeah.
right? And the divine created ego for a reason, but that's not the goal, to feed the ego.
Yeah.
The goal is to feed love. So
That's a great point. The ego is so counter to the soul, because the soul is connection and we're all one and this is unity and love. And the ego is like, man, we are not. I don't love you because I've got to get mine, and you and me are separate and we're not the same. The ego is so counter. It would be likening to, if the soul is the God, then the ego is the devil. You know, is this light and dark? How do you feel that soul and that ego go together, and how do you feel in the purpose of what that ego does to allow the soul to have a journey?
I think the ego is here as a balancer, and it's here to help us survive in our physical vessels, because in truth, at a spiritual level, we are infinite. We're eternal. We never die.
Never die.
Right? We live forever.
You're not going to die.
But
When you're dead, you won't be dead.
right, we have a physical body here.
Yeah.
So the ego is a mechanism for us to keep our physical bodies safe.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there's a bear. You should probably run. You know what I mean? That's what the ego's for. Don't cross the road when there's a truck coming.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. So it's meant to be logical, rational, keep us safe. It's not meant to drive our lives or to hold us back from our passions. But the ego has gotten so out of control in our society because we have built an entire construct around me, myself, and I. What's in it for me? Well, I can't help you because, well, if I give you money for that, what's it really going towards?
Yep.
I mean, I've gotten in fights with people that are friends and family when I just want to give a homeless guy $5. And they get really mad at me. They say things like, well, they're just going to use that for drugs or alcohol, and that's a waste of the money, and why would you do that? And they need to get a job. And they say these things, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me at all. And that to me is coming from a place of ego.
Yeah.
Me, myself, and I. My money is my money. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Money is energy.
It's energy. Yeah.
And if I'm here to be love and to be of service and to be sharing, and I have that energy to give to another person, the moment I give it to that person, I have no attachment to it. I never had an attachment to it to begin with because it wasn't mine. It's just an energy that I'm sharing. And whatever that person decides to do with it, that's on their journey, not mine. I'm not here to judge that. But when we're in that place of ego, we get so contorted and twisted up into knots because of our attachments and our beliefs about right and wrong and judgment. And it all goes back to that religious program that we're fed in fear, and this is right, this is wrong. Yeah. And it's just all part of the ego. So it gets out of control.
Yeah, that ego is definitely a fear-based construct.
Yeah, but it has its place. Like a lot of people in the spiritual community will say things like, well, you have to conquer the ego. It's like, no, you don't have to conquer anything. Again, that's another construct about fighting and creating resistance. That is the opposite of the divine.
Yeah. Now, I love that because you said that warrior archetype is an old archetype. We just got to fight against that darkness and we got to do this. Can you share a story you recently told me about transmuting darkness and feeling it scooped into love? Can you share that?
Okay.
That was beautiful.
Sure. No names mentioned, right?
Please.
Well, I mean, I have training in how to clear negative energy.
Yeah, no, let me give presence to this. Because Jeanette loves love and light and angels and fairies and happiness.
That's just part of it.
And then people with really dark, disturbing things come to her and she's like, all right, I know how to deal with it. Here we go again.
Just transmute. Yeah. My last name is Saint Germain, apparently. Yeah. I'm supposed to transmute stuff.
So you had a real heavy thing, darkness, and a person came to you looking for help.
Yeah. So when darkness comes to a place where there's a lot of light and love, a lot of people will run from it and say, no, I'm going to pretend this doesn't exist. I'm going to only be in love and light. And I think that that's unfair to the full spectrum of what we are here to experience as human beings, as well as going through an awakening process. I've learned that the higher we go, the lower we go, right? We have the ability, the choice to do that. And so when this person came in and was really struggling, I was kind of playing with some different ways of removing the energy or clearing it, whatnot. And I just kind of had this epiphany around it that it's not about throwing it into the light or vanquishing it into source or burying it or just rejecting this energy, right?
Which is what attack, kill,
which
destroy.
is a lot of my training has been that.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't sitting with me and it wasn't working the way that I felt was in alignment for whatever reason. And so I went in and I started communicating with the energy a little bit, just like viewing it and asking questions. And every time the energy would try to create fear or push a button to try to get me to leave it alone because it didn't want to be cleared. And I would just be like, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. Or I would say, well, where's this coming from? And the energy would show me things about being afraid to die. It was afraid that if it was removed from this person, that it would die because it didn't know how to hold on to its own source of life force. It was a disembodied energy that was magnetized to this person because they had a like resonance, a frequency where it could connect. Yeah. And I just went in and I just kept holding love. It was like my heart was just beaming sunlight. That's it. And if the dark tried to come in and tried to influence me or anything that wasn't true in that light, it was like it would get burned. It couldn't go into that energy. And so I just kept holding love over and over. And it got to the place where this core energy just wanted to be loved, just wanted to be alive. And so I opened up this huge light portal and I said, here's source. Here's the energy of love. Here's the energy of life. You can go here. You can be a part of this. And between this whole process of clearing, like I would see it look at me and it would be all like, all discombobulated. And then it would look to the light and it was like, oh, like this energy of pure love was just coming in. This illumination was happening. And as I watched clairvoyantly, of course, this is not happening right in front of me.
Your eyes closed?
My eyes are closed. I'm seeing this in, my
it's a visualization of what's
vision.
Happening. Yeah.
Right. And I was seeing cracks forming around this entity and all these masks, all these layers, all these personifications of fear and anger were just falling away around this being. And it was so interesting because I watched it try to fight it and I wasn't pushing it. I wasn't shoving it anywhere it shouldn't be. I was just holding it. And eventually I saw this being that at one point was really big and kind of scary. And I was just, observing this. It turned into this small child, this little boy, and it didn't turn its face away from the light. At one point, it just got to that little small child level. And then I saw the energy that I was perceiving as source, mother, goddess, Sophia energy coming in. Beautiful. And she scooped him up into her hands. And he just melted into this disintegrated golden stardust kind of energy. And he just went back into the light of source. He was reunified. And then that energy was cleared from the person completely. And the person was so filled with love. I mean, they were crying. It was just...
So you have a person lying on the table and you're doing your energy work.
It was a session,
Yeah. And this person then has a actual feeling within their body.
Yeah, they felt this huge thing just lift up and out.
Yeah.
And then they were suddenly breathing calmer and they were just tears unbidden. Tears were coming out and it was just so much love. Wow. And that's just a very different way of clearing an energy than, what I've seen in the past or what I've been taught. And I've always done something like that to some level, but this was showing me another way of doing it that just was really beautiful.
And that's that new type of love energy rather than that old, it's us versus them and we must fight the darkness and conquer with light and we have to somehow battle and go to war. It's more of a we're in this together, and if there's something that's part of the oneness that's hurting and needing of love, we're here to help that get back to that place of love.
And there's some energies that we can't help. That's the other thing too. This energy showed up and I was able to do that, and there's other energies that show up and it's like yeah, I'm not able to help you.
Mm-hmm.
Because either the person doesn't want the help, or the energy, there's energies that can't be returned to light because they're not from the light.
Oh,
And I've run into those kinds of situations
tell
too.
me more.
Well, this universe is duality. It's constructed that way. So we have light, we have dark. The highest highs have the lowest lows. It's the yin and yang,
Yep.
right? And
Every North Pole has to have a South
right,
Pole.
it's just about balance. It's not about right or wrong, good or bad. Just balance. And the universe is always seeking balance, and it's always seeking to express itself in another way, right? Infinite creative potential.
Wow.
It's an expression of divine energy. So some energies are from a polarity of darkness created through source, but in a place that is without source. It's really hard to describe in human terms. But so if you try to put an energy, I almost said shove the energy. If you try to put an energy back into source, into light, when its source energy is dark, it doesn't work.
Oh, it's like
It just can't go there.
two magnets that aren't
Yeah.
repelling.
It has to go into the dark.
Huh.
So as somebody that navigates multiple fields and dimensions and energies and frequencies, you have to be able to go into lots of places. Now, I understand the dark is there. I'm not going to go in and embrace it as my lover, right?
Yeah.
But I acknowledge that it is there, and I honor its existence. I honor the need for balance, at least in this universe.
So the energy work that you do is amazing. I have a child that has done some energy work with you, and he told me it was okay to share lightly, not his personal things,
Right.
but the fact that he received a great service from you. He had some impressions of past lives. He had some energy work that you were able to help him through. So gratitude from me to you for
you're
that.
welcome.
And his friend was over last night, and he goes, "Hey, I heard Jeanette's coming over tomorrow." I said, "Yep, we're filming an episode." He goes, "She's awesome." And he starts telling his friend how awesome Jeanette is and all these cool things. And he was like, "Yeah, we're going to come by and say hi." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I don't know if you'll be up by 10 o'clock in the morning." You know? But I think the work that you do is so amazing. And again, you have this visualization. And he was telling me the things you were saying, he was already visualizing.
Yeah.
And he's like, he saw these things. And then you were like, "Hey, I see these things." And he's like, that's exactly what he was seeing. and so that level of connectivity is amazing. Again, I don't want to share his personal stuff,
Right.
but I wanted to share the story that his freedom level is so much higher and relaxed after having a couple sessions of energy work with you. So tell me about that process of feeling someone's energy. I've had that experience of being on that table and you just have that Reiki thing and you're running your hands around, you're feeling that. Give some presence to that work that you do.
I mean, everybody's different. Everybody's energy fields are different.
Everybody's different?
So every session's different, even with the same person. But my goal whenever somebody comes in for that work is to just basically go in and reset them to their divine nature. So whatever that means, whether there's past life baggage or addictions or insomnia or sexuality things that are off or fears around driving a car, whatever it is, there's some kind of imbalance in an energy field. And if we can go in and reset the divine matrix of that person's soul, their energetic system, and then we can go through and we can release energies from cellular memory, from the DNA, from lifetimes past, present, future, and concurrent.
Whoa.
You can go multidimensional from any scope that you can imagine. So it gets really interesting because I can access energies that are physical and non-physical and get information in so many different ways. So
Yeah, you just have a way of connecting, and the visualization that you are seeing is often, like, I had an experience where I saw, we talked about this on a previous episode, where I just saw myself moving forward through a tunnel, and I saw a being kind of like raising his hands and somehow being propelled forward. And you're like, oh, that's entering through the cosmic womb into the void and into the portal of ascension. And I was like, what? Okay, it's crazy. It's new to me, But I remember having a visceral experience, and that you are also able to feel that and describe what that is.
Right.
So there's that connection to energy. And then you have that connectivity to the other side, the psychic medium ability. And are those also images that will form in your mind where a message from someone will come through?
It depends. It's a different channel. The mediumship is a very different channel than, say, I'm bringing in healing energy from the angelic realm, or
Think of an old 1975 TV and turning
it
channels.
is. It's like that. It's like changing channels.
Rabbit ears and your...
Yeah. But what's happening now is really fascinating, is that it's not just navigating through channels now. Now it's like everything's on all the time, and I'm kind of sitting above it, and my consciousness isn't going everywhere all at once. And I keep seeing fractals and mirrors and holograms and all these different things. Like anytime I close my eyes, I feel like I'm tripping, but I'm not. So the way that the energy is expanding and working through me is even changing into an even more expanded, multidimensional nature. So yes, it's a different channel, it's a different vibration or frequency, and it's a different way of receiving energy. But I usually get visuals, I usually get some form of feeling or sensation, and I always, it's like all of my clairvoyant abilities, clairvoyance, claircognizance, clairsentience, clairaudience, they all work at the same time. Whereas before it would either be, I'm feeling it and I'm seeing it, and now it's like all of those channels are open, receiving information from different channels all at once. And it's like, a lot of times I don't know how to put it into human words. So I'll just pick one that seems like the core energy, and then I might share that with the person on the table and say, okay, we're looking at a past life around abandonment and warrior, and something happened and you were beheaded and did it, whatever the image is supposed to be. But I don't necessarily tell them they were beheaded.
Sure. Well, I think that's good to let them have their journey.
If they need to know, then I will. But
in their experience. Now, there's a lot of kind of the doomsday mindset, the us, them, the political landscape. There's still a tremendous amount of religious influence on our planet today that keeps people in a state of fear. Do you feel like consciousness is going to maintain this kind of fear state? Are we moving forward? I do remember a sentence that you said that said, well, I don't know, Trump might be our last president we ever have. I mean, and I was like, excuse me? What does that mean? And you said we just might be going through an ascension. We might be going through a change in our the way we think and do things. Can you give some presence to that?
I mean, the current physical landscape that we are experiencing in our human lives is, we're seeing all this yucky stuff coming up in politics and socioeconomic divides. And it's not just this country in the United States, it's all over. And so it's not necessarily something that I would assign to Trump. It would just be this energy of that duality, right? There's energies of separation and divisiveness, and there's energies of love and unity. And every time I see something bad coming up, I can see 10 more things that are good. So it's just that stuff doesn't get a lot of airplay. So I believe that it is part of the ascension process, the waking up. And I do believe that every person is getting offered these energies from the sun, from their soul, from the powers that be, creation, whatever that is. And some people will receive it and they'll say, I think I want to be a part of this way of viewing the world that's more loving, more flowing, right? And then other people are going to say, no, I want to have all the money and I want all of the power and I want this and that and whatever. And they're going to go kicking and screaming till however many lifetimes it takes for them to shift into that place of waking up.
I feel like that's a scarcity model. If you feel like you need to be super wealthy, I'm like, you need billions of dollars. I'm like, well, how much is enough for you to feel comfortable? When the richest people in the world continue to get rich, it feels like, well, there's never enough for them. And it's almost a fear-based construct to have that quest to get so wealthy.
They're trying to feed a void within themselves, and they're using an external thing. And the people that are waking up, they're finding that nothing in the external is fulfilling them.
Yeah.
They're having to go inside. They're having to start a meditation practice or come talk to some weird, crazy lady like me to try to figure out something that they can't put into words. So it's their spirit nudging them and talking to them and getting connected in whatever way it can. So, and I do think also, like, through this process of awakening, I think there's some people that are just here that are catalysts to other people's awakening. And maybe their role on the planet is not to awaken. It's to hold the balance, to hold the duality to the awakening. So I honor that. Thanks for showing where the anchor is. I'm going to go above that now. I don't want to be a part of that reality. Thanks for showing me that. Okay.
Showing us where the bottom of the pit was. Now we can go forward from there.
It's like, I heard a teacher say once that Buddha's sitting and meditating, and one of his students comes up and slaps him in the face. And Buddha's response is, thank you for balancing the karma between us.
Wow.
You know, that idea that we can respond instead of react. The idea that we can see a purpose in everything, in the pain, in the yuck, in the muck. Right? There's a reason for it. And it's not my job to make it right or wrong, good or bad. It's my job to decide, what am I in resonance with? And if there's other people around me that are maybe buying into some of that yucky stuff, I can choose then, do I want to be around that person? Do I want to co-create with that person? What are we creating together with our energy? That's where my responsibility comes in as a divine being.
Yeah, that's so good. And I love that, giving presence to the journey of a soul. I mean, the book Journey of Souls has taught me that the soul is on this long arcing trajectory over eons, spanning such great vast amounts of time, that this lifetime we are currently having right now is merely a lifetime of sequential lifetimes that go on and on and on. And this experience we're having might be because we wanted to experience something different than the last time, or something that we hadn't had. We're like, oh, what would that be? And then we meet with other beings in our soul groups, and we somehow form these contracts to say, well, in this lifetime you'll come in this stage and you'll be this person to me, and we'll work either together or we'll be at odds, and we'll find that thing. Then we get back to the other side and we're laugh,
high five.
That was so much fun.
Right?
And so give presence to that journey that a soul goes through, and this humanness that we're currently experiencing.
Well, I think throughout time, through our experiences of life, at least on planet Earth, we are, in my understanding, Earth is one of those places that you go to if you want to kind of fast track your soul evolution, because it's one of those places that is falsely, but there's a perception of being disconnected from source. Yes. If you were to incarnate on another planet in another part of this universe, chances are you'd feel very connected to your source. Or you might have a more evolved consciousness where you may be able to have a physical body, but also an energetic body, and shift and change form and have access to all kinds of different things that we don't as human beings, because that's the experience we have chosen, at least at this moment. And when we have that experience of contrast to our truth, it's like this really big mountain with this really intense experience. And it's going to help us grow much faster than something that's like, yay, this is fun and perfect all the time. Yay. And we have that in spirit all the time. So if we come to Earth, it's because we want to evolve. We want to experience this richness and depth of emotion and feeling that as human beings, we're like, oh my God, I'm feeling so much. Right? So there's that. But then there's also, I believe, that this idea of awakening and ascension and some of those even prophecies that have been foretold, we are at a place in time in the evolution of this planet that things are changing rapidly, accelerating rapidly. And there are more and more souls that want to get on ship on the Earth right now because it's going through this awakening process. The Earth herself is shifting in frequency and choosing a new kind of paradigm, a new kind of program, right? And Spirit has shown me it's the original template, the original program of being love and unity and a more evolved consciousness. So every person that's on the planet right now is here to assist that process, whether it's a catalyst or a contrast, or one of the ones like me that is like, okay, I'm going to hold lots of love. I'm going to anchor lots of love. I'm going to do what I can to move into that higher state of awareness. And then there's others that don't have that at all. They're just like, I'm here, do. It's fine.
There are many people that I have run into that they're just like, I have no idea. I'm just going to go to work today because that's all there is.
And that's perfectly fine.
That's your experience. Do it.
It's beautiful. Have fun.
Give presence to Radiant Soul Center and the work that you're doing there.
Well, we have a spiritual community. I kind of started out the center as a holistic wellness or an integrative wellness kind of center. But honestly, it's really turned into this place of kind of like a modern mystery school and a spiritual place where people can come, and it's free of religious dogma and paradigms. And each person that comes in, I just want them to feel at home and connected and more in alignment with their soul essence than when they got there. You know, so we do work where I do one-on-one sessions with people, like what we were discussing, energy work or intuitive sessions, or just even helping people on their spiritual paths as they start to wake up and these strange things start to happen. You know, I can kind of help them a little bit because I've been there, done that, and I'm still working through it myself. And then I also have group events where we do meditation groups every week. We do gongs and singing bowl meditations. We do unity consciousness energy shares. We do soul map readings. We do message nights that are messages from your angels and your guides and your loved ones. I mean, there's so many different things that Spirit just opens up all these doors. So whatever people feel drawn to, they can connect.
Yeah. And you do a lot of teaching.
Yeah.
You do a lot of giving information about specific topics. What are some of the things that people sign up for and come? Are they like one-offs, or do you have multiple series?
Some of them are just standalone, and some of them are series. Yeah. In fact, every time I try to do a standalone class, it turns into a series because there's so much more information. I mean, just recently we did a class just introducing crystal skulls and breaking some paradigms of fear around the crystal skulls. And it was really fascinating because I had like 2 months where I was consumed with this energy of crystal skulls and crystalline light grids and how to work with crystals in a different way, with skulls in a different way to help bring more light templates into the earth to assist with ascension.
Now tell me about that crystal skull, because, you know, as a religious-minded person, you see the skull and that's death and that's evil, and then I see these crystal skulls and I'm like, oh, you know, keyword bad is going off in my head, but yet you're like, no, there's beauty there.
So much.
Talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of obsessed with crystals. I love crystals in general. Crystals help focus energy, and they're like natural computers. You can program them to hold frequencies and energies and information. And skulls are the same way, except even more so. Because when you carve something into the shape of something that people have a connection to, it gives it more power, more energy, without getting into the whole history of skulls. But I have found in my work with the skulls that they actually hold histories of this universe, that they connect to other skulls, to light grids that have been built and have been kind of shut down and forgotten through this whole process of being in a matrix of 3D ego and fear and forgetting our truth. So the skulls are coming in right now and lighting up and activating in a new way, because a lot of the skulls hold that original template of unity consciousness and love energy. So they're asking to be worked with in another way so that we can bring more of that energy in. It's the easiest way I can describe it.
Yeah, well, that's great. So what are some things that you want people to know, whether it was about your work or the center or just giving people some information?
I mean, when we were first talking about this episode, there's a lot of information about the ascension and what's going to happen in the future and kind of that doomsday prophecy kind of energy. And I want to make sure people understand that life is what you make it. And your process of ascension and leaving this world, whether it's through death, through enlightenment, through a spaceship, through whatever you want to believe in, that's fine. There's no right or wrong in that. But I always ask people to pay attention If you're receiving information from someone, does it feel good? Does it feel based in fear or based in empowering you to be the best version of yourself you can be? And always going back to that place of, am I looking at this through the eyes of a mortal human being, or am I understanding this through the perspective of I am infinite and nothing can actually hurt me ever, right?
Beautiful.
There's so many different things going on right now with the ascension, and all these bad things are going to happen when the solar flare happens.
Solar flares.
And I'm just like, I don't understand this fear. I'm seeing the waves of light coming in. And while there are some things that make it difficult to integrate into a physical molecular structure, like there's things called the ascension flu, where people feel more fatigued, or they get fevers, or they can't sleep, or they're just kind of jittery. One of the first times I was raising my vibration, I didn't sleep for like 2 weeks.
Oh my.
I was just laid down and I felt like I was vibrating off the bed because I had all this energy running through me. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But we have this idea as human beings that we are going to, oh, that's bad, I shouldn't do that. Or, oh, that feels different, so it must be not right. And it's like there's a whole world out here of discovery and exploration, and we should be open to that in a state of knowing that we're divine. So why are we approaching anything with fear? Yeah, we have human bodies. Okay, let's work within that, but let's bring in the full range of who we are, because we're not just human beings.
Oh, so good. Jeanette St. Germain in the house. So give presence to your website, give presence to the way people can find you and get a hold of you.
My website is JeanetteSt.Germain.com, and that's probably the best way to reach me, just through the website and contact form.
And do you want to put your personal cell number out there?
No, I do not.
Like, why are all these people contacting me?
Thanks, Dave.
No, I'm teasing. Great. As we finish up, if there's that one thing that you want to leave people with, what is that one thing?
Be present. Stop chasing your tail. I got to do this. I got to do that. We get so distracted. Be present. If you feel good, feel good. If you don't feel good, don't feel good. And then shift it, right? Take responsibility and just be wherever you are.
Yeah.
Love it. Love the journey.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate spending time with you today.
Thank you for having me.
High five.
Awesome.
I'm David Marsh, and you've been watching Exploring the Human Journey on YouTube as a video and listening as a podcast. If you would like to help continue the conversation, please consider supporting us by visiting patreon.com, where you can support us on a monthly basis and get extra bonus content. For as little as $1 a month, you can make this show sustainable and help continue spiritual consciousness. You can also help by following us on Facebook and Instagram. For more information about the show, find us online at exploringthehumanjourney.com.